Say what you want about wiring, but one of the things that I do kind of like about it is it's that little bit more. I suppose you'd call it civilized at times. Rather than be out in the cold garage in the depths of winter here, I'm in my sitting room, and I am going to lay out the harness on the floor of the sitting room and have a look at it and see if I can make sense of it. I do have a drawing to go by as well too, and I can be babysitting the little man who's having a great time over here. Aren't you, mister? Yeah, I think that's a yes. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking all this out, and this bag of stuff here is surplus wiring which I don't need, but the throttle position sensor is in there as well too. So that's the actual modified harness that has already been modified to fit a Mark 1 Golf. So because it's been modified to fit a Mark 1 Golf, a lot of the kind of the interfaces to other cars' electronics or to the Seat Alhambra's electronics are gone out of it, and instead it has connections into the Golf's central electric wiring system. And yes, I do have a hole in my sock, but sure, look, what can you do? Anyway, right. Yeah, let's get stuck in. Okay, folks, I feel like I kind of made a decent impression in the wiring harness there now. Anyway, so hopefully by the time it comes to connecting everything up to the van's engine, it'll actually start. Now, I'm still skeptical because I'm not entirely sure whether the immobilizer has been deleted from the ECU, and I won't really know that until it kind of comes to the point where I actually am trying to start the engine and I find that it runs for a second and then dies. The other thing I had to do was I had to buy a different throttle position sensor because I have the wrong one. I don't know why. I mean, I think there was an electrical there was an adapter cable in the Seat Alhambra, but the one I got basically mounts onto a bracket that I got that will mount onto the side of the alternator on the engine. And yeah, the other thing as well too is the pins were pulled out of the ECU connector for the brake light switch and for the what do you call it? The OBD port, and I'm going to need the OBD port to actually diagnose problems if anything crops up. So I will have to reinstate them. So the next thing to do, basically, as it stands, is to put the flywheel on the engine, crank over the engine, see if it builds up oil pressure, and then hang the harness off the engine and connect up whatever power feeds need to be connected up onto it, and try and make it work out of the van. And once I have it at that point, then it's a case of kind of mating up the engine and gearbox and saying, right, we're getting close to fitting this whole assembly. But yeah, that's going to be over the next couple of weeks anyway. So still a couple of small bits to get. I think I need a relay or two as well as the different throttle position sensor, which hasn't arrived yet, but it will arrive, and we'll be able to test it all out then. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll keep you updated in a future video. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've made a little bit of progress here in that I've kind of stretched out some of the wiring. I was going to say it looks worse than it actually is, but it is pretty bad. See, the problem I have here is the fact that in their infinite wisdom, whoever actually unwrapped most of the harness wrote a lot of the labels on paper in gold paint marker, and most of them are illegible. Some of them are gone. And then there's these little bundles of wires here, which I don't know if I need or not, so I need to find out what they actually do. Then there's other things as well too, like that's just labelled vacuum lines. That's no use to me. I mean, what do they do for the vacuum lines? I mean, is that the turbo boost control solenoid, or what is it? There's this lad over here. I believe that's the throttle position sensor. It says something like that. AIC position sensor. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway, we'll have to have a look at the wiring diagram and see our colour codes. And then over here is the wiring that's supposed to interface with the Mark 1 Golf. Now, that's one of the CE1 electrical connectors, Central Electric 1 electrical connectors, that's supposed to plug straight into the fuse box. that's going to have to go because the Mark 1 Golf does not share the wiring with the T25 van, unfortunately. And anyway, even if it did, the fuse panel for the van is right up the front of the van, and the wiring all goes down to the engine bay, so we'll have to interface with the wiring in the engine bay there. So, yeah, look, let's worry about all this lot first of all, and then we can kind of trace our way back to here and see if we can make sense of that. Hopefully, our colour codes will all start to make sense there. There is labels. I don't have a diagram that they make sense on. Maybe on a Mark 1 Golf they make sense. We'll just have to see. It would be nice if they do, because at least that way then I can kind of just, you know, put. I have solder sleeves for joining up wires. They're brilliant little things. I can use them, and male and female spade terminals as well too. Yeah. Pretty sure that's not a part of it. That's the dog's chew toy. There you go. Unimpressed, I think, is the term used there. What do you reckon, Rodders? Yeah. Anyway, right, so we will get some. I have some masking tape. I have a black marker. And I have a wiring diagram somewhere. I have to go and find that now, and we'll see how we get on there. Right, so here's our wiring diagram, and unfortunately it's not in colour, but what we need to do is, I've gone through it and I've actually labelled a couple of the things up just to make life easier. So that's our intake temperature sensor there, air mass meter, engine speed, and that's not connected to anything. So this seems to be the wiring bus in the car, or the relay box. That's the ECB there, the engine control unit, and 68 pin connection. So that there is our 68 pin connection. So that's grand. Okay, so now we have a starting point there, right? So we need to go down to our engine speed sensor first of all, right? So according to this, there is 3 wires onto G28. G28 is engine speed sender. Okay, now what we're looking for is that there is WS, GE and SW. So we have our colour code. WS is white, SW is black, and GE is green, I believe. No, yellow. Well, I think GE being yellow is Gelbe in German. So and Weiss is white, Schwarz is black, Rot is red, Brown is brown. I don't know why I know this. I mean, I don't actually speak German. But yeah, and Grune is green. So Blau, blue. Okay, so right, it helps to have a little bit of an understanding of the lingo, but the young lad's providing the music over there. If you're wondering, he's in his element with his little bat we call it. He likes batting away at it. So right, so let's have a look at our 3-pin wiring connections and see what we're looking at. So one of them, is it one of them? No, there's two going into that. There's 2 going into that, so it's neither of them. Okay, that's onto the gearbox. Reverse switch, I'm not entirely sure we'll be using that. I'd say we'll probably use the existing wiring for the reverse switch in the van. That says alternator, so I'd imagine that's the charge control for the alternator. And what is this? That looks like there is a single red wire going onto it, and that is going to be our starter. Okay, so that's grand, right? So we have them sorted out anyway. So not fully sure what that there is. I'm wondering, is that the TPS? We'll come back to that, okay? So let's see over here. There's one white, one yellow, and one black. Okay, is that what we were looking for? So white, yellow, and black. White, yellow, and black. Yes, so that's our engine speed connection. Okay, so let's get a label onto that. And there you go, folks. That is how you label a bloody electrical harness. That is codology here, I mean, which is done in a gold marker and you can barely read. Okay, so engine speed G28. Right, so we now know where that goes, right? So we need to do this for the rest of them. And hopefully we'll be able to make our way right the way through the electrical connectors. And there's a couple of different connections in that. That there has most of the connections for the fuel pump, if not all of them. But we'll check and see which goes into that. So yeah. Anyway, look, let's see what this one does. So this one here is see, some of the wires will have two colours on them. So that's yellow and blue, and brown and blue. Okay, so getting up this close, it's hard to get the camera to focus. Okay, so yellow and blue and brown and blue. Let's have a quick look over the wiring diagram again. So yellow and blue will be yellow is GE, so Gelbe. I think I know it's yellow. Gelbe is yellow because the GSR Beetle, which was yellow and black, was Gelbe Schwarzrenner, which was what GSR stood for. So the yellow and black racer. So a little bit of useless and trivial information for you. So Gelbe Schwarz. So there's two colours anyway. Yeah, anyway, so what were we saying? Yellow and brown. Yellow and blue and brown and blue. So yellow and blue, and it's brown and white. So that's not it. Okay, we'll find it and we'll come back to this. Something tells me Rodney is being left out here. What do you reckon? Ah, yeah. That's what he thinks of it. Okay, so the conclusion I'm drawing from all of this is that either I have the wrong wiring diagram. I know it says Golf Vento, but that's the right engine code. Right? Now, this wiring harness is from a Seat Alhambra, but it also has the AHU engine. It's the same basic engine. Now, all I've managed to do is find one electrical connector, and I've the throttle position sensor over here, which has this connector on it, and I have absolutely nothing in this bundle of shit that corresponds at all with that connector. I've got no labels, and I am gonna have to try and find a better wiring diagram. So the only thing I can think of is that maybe one of these bundles here is for the throttle position sensor, and that I have to cut and rejoin it and all this as well too, which fine if I have to do that, but you know, sometimes it's easier when you just get a donor car, and I'm starting to see that now. I think we had an auto electrician here who either didn't give a shit or didn't know what he was doing, or it was some have-a-go hero who kind of created more of a mess than anything else. So, like, you know, I mean, that's not a proper label. So, as you can tell probably by the tone of my voice, I'm starting to get a little bit fed up trying to find things. Like, that is, what is it? AIC position sensor. I don't know, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's, I don't know. Well, I don't see what else it can be. It certainly doesn't correspond with anything I have in my wiring diagram. Bearing in mind I got the wiring diagram from the same sources where the wiring harness itself came from. I don't want to go down the route of having to buy an entire electrical harness for this. It's going to be expensive if I do have to do it. But I'll persevere. Yes. My son is relaying my sentiments a little bit here, to be honest with you. Okay, well look, I'll try and find some better drawings, and we'll go from there. Okay, folks, we are in business. The drawings I had were wrong. So I have the right ones now, and what I've done is I've actually gone through everything and labelled it all myself. So instrument panel, cruise control switch, brake pedal switch, coolant temp, vehicle speed sensor, all of that. But anyway, I started with these two here, which I knew I couldn't find on the other drawing. That's the exhaust gas recirculating solenoid and a turbo control solenoid. So straight away, the first two things I picked up, I was able to find out what they were and label them up. So we're in business. So basically all I need to do now is to go through everything and put labels on them. And what I did was I went out to the garage and I took pictures of all the connections on the engine as well too, so that I have something to go off. But yeah, I feel a bit more positive now anyway. It's hardly surprised now I was getting frustrated using the wrong drawing, but yeah, we'll keep going now anyway. And yeah, what I'll do is I'll show you the end result. There's no point in me showing you me looking through through a diagram and writing a load of labels. I mean, look, that's what I'm doing there, right? So Y68 on that corresponds to turbo control solenoid Y68. So there you go. That's what that is. And yeah. So it's a good drawing actually, and I have to say thanks to Trev and the car club who provided me with these drawings this evening and meant I was able to continue. So thanks, Trev. Progress has definitely been made, folks. All of those connectors there, I now know what they do. So we have engine speed or crank position sensor. This is actually the same thing. Injection needle lift sensor. There's one that's bloody ridiculous because the labeling that was on the harness when I actually started this said glow plugs on that. Now I know well enough that that is not glow plug wiring on that. Glow plug wiring would be more something like that. So that's our connector for the injection pump. Starter solenoid, which I probably won't use. I'll probably use the existing wiring in the van. MAF sensor, alternator. For some reason the wire is actually cut, so I'll have to put a new terminal on that. That's not a big deal though. And what's that one? Reverse light switch. Again, I don't think I'll need it for anything, but you know yourself, what'll happen is if I don't connect it up, I'll go to start the engine and it won't start for some particular reason. So I tend to find with these type of things, you're better off just connecting them up, or at least leaving them there. And there's two more connectors over there, turbo control solenoid and the EGR solenoid. I have an EGR delete plate for this as well too, because hashtag fuck Greta Thunberg. So yeah, only not really, you know. But in the case of this van, I don't think she'd approve for some reason. Yeah, so a bit more wiring. That's the wiring I'm questioning over there as to what to do with, and I have to go through. I believe that connector over there, it has to be the throttle position sensor, but it's a completely different connector than what's actually on the throttle position sensor I have, with different color codes and everything. So we'll have to figure that one out. Okay, so this is looking a hell of a lot better now anyway. There's one of my wiring diagrams. There's a lot of the wiring that's going to interface with the van, and more of the wiring over there that's going to interface with the van. It's the ECU connector, and things like the MAF sensor connection, mass airflow sensor, turbo solenoid, the throttle position sensor connections over there. I'm going to have to cut that connector off and put another one on, but I've got the pin out right now anyway. And there's a load of the excess wiring left over and Rodney's toy. So yeah, it's looking a lot tidier now anyway. Let's just hope it works. That's the only thing now we need to figure out. I remain skeptical, to tell you the truth, but what I'll do is I'll get the engine all set up and then I can hang the wiring harness on it loosely. There's just a masking tape around it in place. It's just for the moment, just to kind of hold it all together. But obviously I'm going to properly wrap it when it's finished. It's inspected now anyway, so there's no breaks or damaged insulation. So it's a good starting point. But everything's labelled now, so we have things like, even here we won't actually be using reverse light switch, for example. There's the coolant temperature. That is the oil pressure light. High oil pressure. The switch positive, relay 109 out, so I'm going to have to get a relay hooked up in the engine bay for everything. That's not a big job. And then over here we have ignition plus from the key switch, glow plug light. I don't think I'll be using the glow plug circuit from this ECU. Power relay J317, I'm not sure what that is, I have to look it up. I think it's relay 109 again, but whether it actually pulls the relay in or whether it's actually responsible for whether it takes power from it, we have to find that out. So yeah, it's not too big a deal anyway. So yeah, anyway, next step is, as I said, it's just a test and see how we get on.